الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على النبيين وحب المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة والمقربين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. بسم الله وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
Alhamdulillah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our fasting and accept our prayers and accept our du'as. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept the best of our intentions this month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all that we do this month of Ramadan. Ya Rabbil Alameen. This is the moment to really turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the moments that Allah has given us. And we ask Allah so that we can truly be aware of these moments, to capitalize, to use, to invest, inshallah ta'ala, with these moments at hand. Inshallah ta'ala, as we reach and cross the midpoint, we've spoken a bit about the idea of Ramadan and how we're trying to really improve on our intention. Okay. We're doing this for whose sake? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And that should be the ultimate goal for all of this. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through the prophetic instruction of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that, this Ramadan, this blessed month, we're blessed to have the moments where our du'as are accepted as someone who is fasting. Right? From the beginning, after we finish our sahur, or suhoor, up till the point that we're going to break our fasting, that moment is a moment for us where all of the du'as that we do is inshallah accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And that's something that's very beautiful. That's something that we really have to capitalize, that we really have to use, and we have to utilize that I need to make dua as much as I can, even to the point that I want others to make dua for me as well. I want others to make dua for me, and I want myself to make du'as for others. Because when I make dua for another person, what happens? What happens when I make dua for someone? The angels say Ameen, and also that dua is going to be for us as well. Right? When we make dua, not just for myself, that's why when we say in the Al-Fatiha, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, not Ihdi. Oh Allah, grant me guidance, not just me, but us. Right? Not ihdina. That's why usually when there's a dua that's happening, we try to make it so that there's in the Arabic, if you're doing it in the Arabic, you use the subject for na, right? We, us. Right? In the Indonesian, kita, kami, and so on. Right? So the idea is that this is a collective opportunity. This is a collective opportunity for us, and you also make dua for others. That dua will also be for us, inshallah. We make dua, and it's very interesting because the concept of the dua is that, oh Allah, I'm calling upon you. I need something from you, Ya Allah. Right? I need something. I want something from you, Ya Allah. That's why I'm asking. We have the concept of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in Surah Al-Ikhlas, Allahu Samad. What is the meaning of Samad? Samad. Samad is the meaning of that Allah is not in need of anything, and everything else is in need of Allah. Allahu Samad. Only found in Surah Al-Ikhlas. That's why you read the title of Al-Ikhlas is that it's only for Allah. The idea of sincerity is only for Allah. Even then, the idea of fasting. I can fast for many things. I can fast, and what I gain out of fasting, the Prophet ﷺ also paraphrasing, is that there are people that fast, but what is their transaction that they get out of fasting? I fast, but the only thing I get is hunger and thirst. We don't want to be like that. I don't want to be at the end of Ramadan, I just only gain hunger. I just only gain thirst. Right? We want to get something more than that. Right? We recognize that in the Hadith Qudsi, in the Hadith related from the Prophet ﷺ, in the words of the Prophet, coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's saying, As-siyamu li, that fasting is for me. Who is fasting for? Who is me right here? It's Allah. Right? So keep that in mind. Who is fasting for? Allah. And I will compensate for it. Right? وَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ, that I will recompensate. I will give the transaction for it. But something interesting is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not state a specific price tag. You know when you go buy groceries, you want to get ready for suhoor, you want to buy oatmeal, you want to buy fruits, you want to buy strawberries for the iftar, you want to buy dates. There's always a price tag that you can see. It can be very expensive or it can be very cheap. But what if there is no price tag for it? You'd be confused, right? How much is this? Right? How much is this? Right? It's interesting how we think about that. And the one who is fasting as well, narrated by the Prophet ﷺ, is that the one who is fasting, and we don't know the price of what fasting is. What is Allah's price on fasting? Allah will reward it himself. The price tag is still unknown yet. Paradise has a gate called Ar-Rayyan, and that gate is through which only those who fast may enter. So that's one of the price tags that we get. Right? That's the transaction that we get. Right? That's what we're going to get, inshallah. When they enter, it will be closed. That's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And it's very interesting. Why is the reward for fasting unknown? Why is it unknown? Right? For example, when you recognize in the Quran many things about taqwa, when you have God consciousness, when you have the fear of Allah, when you know what you should be doing and know what you shouldn't be doing, Allah, for example, will make a way for you. Right? For example. Right? There are many cause and effect. Things that are happening in the Quran, if you make istighfar, what will happen to you? You get increased wealth. Right? So these things, there's a cause and effect. I do something, I get something in reward. Right? But something very interesting about fasting. Why is it not mentioned about the reward of fasting? Right? As a teacher, Ustad Ali says, because the whole point of the ritual of fasting is to liberate us from the way we transaction ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, I do this, you give me this. Ya Allah, I do that, you give me that. But at this very moment, this is for Allah. Of the many things that I recognize that, the multipliers in the month of Ramadan, that Laylatul Qadr, I'm going to get this amount of reward. The last 10 nights, I'm going to get this amount and that amount. It's very transactional, right? And that's okay. For us, we have to see the tangible thing. If I pray at this moment, if I finish praying the Isha together in Jama'ah, and the Fajr together in Jama'ah, it's as though I prayed the whole night, perhaps. Right? And that's a very good deal. I'm not going to throw that out. Right? But the same idea, but even beyond that, is something about fasting. That's a secret behind that. Right? It's for us to let go of all of that, because we are already incentivized. We are already seeing the reward of that, but this fasting itself, it moves us beyond our physical selves. It tells us to transcend beyond what I can deal with in terms of food and drink, the bare bones. And in terms of what I'm dealing with my mouth, am I dealing with people properly? The way I think, how am I dealing with that? The way I touch, the way I use my hands, the way, where do I go, how am I thinking, how am I engaging, right? To the end goal, which is that I'm fasting from everything else except Allah. Yeah, Allah. That's the goal that we need to have. That's the goal that we need to have. Right? So it's to end ourselves from the feasting of the food and the drink. To keep us aware of that. We still need that, but to be more aware. And to internally feast. To spiritually feast. Because we're not just feeding our bellies, our butun, for suhoor and iftar, but we're feeding our batin, feeding our souls. Right? And so that is what we're trying to aim for, inshallah ta'ala, towards a more divine goal of just only for Allah. Lillah, ma'allah, bismillah, with Allah, for Allah, towards Allah. That should be the end goal for us when we build community together, when we experience this together as a personal ritual, as a communal ritual together with our families, with your children. Ask your children, why are you doing this? Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because this, inshallah ta'ala, with ourselves coming together, inshallah, is the prophetic way towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep our intentions pure and to keep us intentional in this month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as how we liberate ourselves from not just being hungry and being thirsty, but to recognize that this liberation is a holistic liberation. A liberation of the spirit, of the mind, of the body. Also not just the liberation of ourselves, but the people around us. The people that we see that are not liberated. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give liberation to those that are going through oppression. That they're going through oppression that is physical. Ourselves perhaps are going through an oppression that we're doing to ourselves. Right? Because oppression doesn't have to be a ruler, a tyrant that we see. It can be our own souls that we have to deal with. It can be our own families that we're dealing with. Right? And so this is a jihad that we have to do with ourselves, inshallah. We ask Allah to help us in this jihad. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Jazakumullah khayran kathira.